You're single. So what are you doing in a family-friendly joint? Maybe you're cheating or something.
I never thought I would run into my ex-husband from 15 years ago while on vacation. It's none of your business. Don't talk to me if you don't have to.
Wow, really on a cheating trip. Her. Still doing that, I see. Good thing I left you. Poor thing. A 46-year-old cheated on wife.
He burst out laughing, and as I frowned in discomfort, two handsome young boys approached me.
Mom, do you know him?
Just someone from the past. He's a stranger now. Don't worry about it. My ex-husband was shocked to see me chatting happily with them, and his face was so funny that I burst out laughing. My name is Molly, 46 years old. I work as an occupational therapist in a nursing home. I live happily with my family of 4, but in fact, I am divorced. It was 15 years ago, just 2 years into my marriage. And it was on our anniversary too. My ex-husband, who's a year older, blindsided me with a divorce. I met him 3 years prior when I was just 28. Back then, a colleague at my workplace introduced me to my ex, named Daniel. He was a refreshing 29-year-old working in sales, just a year older than me. After several dinners and gradually getting closer, he confessed his feelings, and we ended up getting married. Initially, we were over the moon and couldn't wait to start a family. However, when we struggled to conceive, my former mother-in-law, Karen, persistently suggested we get tested, and we reluctantly agreed. Once it was clear there were no issues on my end, the interference began with suggestions for fertility treatments and increasing our intimacy, causing a rift between me and my ex. The immense pressure led to my irregular periods, and his late returns home became more frequent, with our conversations dwindling. One day, he came home smelling of sweet perfume.
You're always late. What are you doing out there? You're not cheating, are you?
I'm just hanging out with women. I can't stand being with you.
I confronted my husband about his cheating.
How do you think I feel every day? Your mother, Karen, not only calls me wanting grandchildren, but also shows up at our house to pressure us. You're never home, so her complaints towards me have increased. And now you're cheating? I'm losing my mind.
As I was distressed, my husband let out a huge sigh.
Is everything my fault? I'm mentally cornered too, you know. I'm sick of your gloomy face and the constant talk about kids. Don't think you're the only one suffering.
But that doesn't justify cheating.
I understood Daniel's point, but I couldn't forgive the infidelity. Then he scoffed.
As if you're not cheating too.
What?
Confused by the baseless accusation, I was puzzled.
The woman I'm cheating with told me. She said it's suspicious we don't have kids even though you're healthy, suspecting you're on birth control. Plus, she showed me a photo of you and a young man entering a hotel together. Are you going to deny it?
That's not me. I'm taking medication prescribed by my gynecologist, but it's completely unrelated.
I denied it, but Daniel wouldn't listen.
No need to hide it. I know you've been seeing other men. Let's just keep this facade of a marriage going. It works out for both of us.
He seemed relieved, but my head was a mess, only adding to my troubles. Soon after, he told me his mistress was pregnant.
Mom's thrilled about seeing her grandchild. You're no longer needed, so just sign the divorce papers. Now you can openly see other men. Cheated on wife.
Since my feelings for him had cooled, I simply agreed to the divorce. Afterwards, my ex-husband, clearly in a good mood, started babbling about his affair partner.
She's just 21, a college student about to graduate in 6 months. She's in the early stages of pregnancy, so her belly isn't that noticeable yet. Her parents were concerned about our 10-year age gap and her still being a student, but I convinced them that I have a stable job and can take responsibility. It was tense meeting them, but everything worked out perfectly in the end.
Without irritation, I only felt disgust towards him. Though I became a stranger to him, running into him like this plunged my previously joyful mood into the depths.
It's been a while. Try to smile a bit. Seriously? You are so uncharming compared to my wife. Hey, we've been a happy family since our divorce. Jealous much?
My ex kept talking, his annoyingly fresh smile making me even more irritated. Behind him stood a charming woman and a boy. Are they the woman and her son who caused our divorce?
Yeah. My son looks cute like my wife. Doesn't he? He's quite popular at school.
Watching him happily talk about them, I felt an urge to leave immediately. But I had reasons to stay, so I endured. I bet your mother is happy too.
Yeah. She's head over heels in love with her grandchild. So much it's almost troubling. I keep telling myself I made the right choice. Even got promoted to manager at work. Everything's going my way.
Behind him, the boy gave me a nod, while his wife glared. I get she's not thrilled seeing her husband talk to his ex, but if anyone should be angry, it's me.
Sorry for all the happy talk. Where's your playmate? Introduce me.
My ex smirked condescendingly. The people I'm with are too good for you. I prefer if you just left. As I coldly rejected him, he seemed oddly triumphant.
People. So you're meeting a bunch of guys. Planning some loser convention. How do you even have suitors at your age?
What was he getting excited about? And it's baffling how he's not embarrassed in front of his teenage son. You seem to be misunderstanding something. I'm just here on a trip. If you keep this up, I worry about your son's future.
Jealous. Just remarry and have kids if you're so bitter. Oh, but maybe it's too late for you. Pathetic. Really?
His son sighed and sat on a nearby bench, starting to play with his smartphone. Then the woman wrapped her arm around my ex's arm and gave me a sly smile. To an outsider, they might look like a happy couple chatting with an acquaintance, but she was clearly taunting me. Their unpleasant nature matched each other perfectly.
Concerned because she's the ex-wife?
He spoke to her with an eerily kind voice, and she shyly nodded.
She's nothing to worry about. Just wanted to share a bit of our happiness with her.
They started being overly affectionate, showing off in public, drawing uncomfortable attention our way. After the sickening display, he turned to me with a broad grin.
Were you watching us the whole time? You're crazy, you know.
Right back at you, doing this in a tourist spot with everyone watching. Your son seems to have walked away in disgust. I noticed their son leaving with a troubled look as they got cozy. Poor kid having to see that. I feel sorry for him.
Teenagers find it too intense. But it's normal at home. And he never complains. So it's probably fine.
Hearing this, I was truly relieved that I never had children with this man. He can't seriously say that. Think about his feelings for once.
It doesn't carry much weight coming from someone who's never raised kids. If you want children so badly, maybe I could let you borrow my son once in a while. You'd enjoy playing family, wouldn't you?
I raised my voice in protest to my ex-husband's outrageous remark. What are you even saying? What do you think your own child is? You do know that kids his age have rebellious phases, right?
So what?
They both looked astonished. It's perfectly normal to feel repulsed by parents' over-the-top displays of affection. He left because he didn't want to be associated with that. What do you mean? It doesn't bother him, or I'll lend him out. Don't treat your child like a tool. Show some respect.
Shut up, acting all high and mighty. But are you really that great? A woman who can't have kids can be played around with and then dumped. Just like when I divorced you.
Realizing arguing with the two of them justifying themselves was pointless, I decided to stay quiet.
Can't come back with anything. Her must have hit the mark. Meddling in someone else's family business is just rude. You know, we're happy. If you're thinking of messing with that, it won't end well for you.
What? I haven't done anything wrong. If anyone wants to take action, it should be me, right? As I glared at them, my ex approached me.
You were cheating too, right? It's all the same. You have no right to complain. Just be thankful I didn't ask for alimony. I've kept the photos from your affair, ready to spread them online, you know?
I felt sick with my ex so close. I haven't cheated. How can't you see those images are fabricated? Even your son, not being your own flesh and blood. Don't just blame me. Try talking things out with your wife.
What did you say?
Behind my ex, the woman's face went pale. Just then, I heard a familiar voice.
Mom, do you know them? You're too close. Could you please step back?
Two handsome young men stepped in to protect me from my ex-husband. Just someone from the past, but now we're strangers, so don't worry about it. Besides, how long are you going to keep Mr. waiting? Mom's getting tired of it.
What? What's this all about? Are you still unmarried and on some affair trip?
Again, the two handsome young men stood protectively in front of me, facing my ex-husband. My son's arrival threw my ex into visible disarray, and he blurted out something absurd.
No way. You're sugar dating. And with these young guys. Seriously messed up, dude.
What are you talking about? These are my biological sons. They're known at their school as the Miracle Twins because they are handsome, brilliant, and athletic. I placed my hands on my son's shoulders, and they gave me an embarrassed look.
Stop it. We're just normal middle schoolers according to everyone else.
But I don't mind. It makes me want to keep doing my best.
Their smiles reminded me of their father. Boys, say hello to this man and woman. My ex-husband still couldn't grasp the reality. His mouth agape.
I'm Jake, the eldest. I attend Prince Junior High School. My hobbies are reading and running early in the morning. And recently, I've also developed an interest in politics.
I'm Ethan, the younger one, attending the same school as my brother. I'm in the soccer team, and I'm putting in the effort to match my accomplished brother in studies.
As they greeted politely, whispers of what nice boys could be heard around us. Only my ex-husband's wife seemed displeased.
They attend a selective middle school, right? With high standards at that. And why are these kids so tall? Don't tell me you had hidden children before marrying me.
Mom, this guy is really strange. Are you sure you know him? Should we call the police?
Jake asked, clearly worried. Not surprising. This man is odd. Did you hear the conversation?
From halfway through, his voice was so loud, And that woman over there, her smile seemed fake. Ethan and I were worried you get tangled up with some weirdo because we were late for our meetup.
Ethan nodded vigorously next to his brother. What reliable sons I have. Sorry to worry you, but yes, I know them. Can you wait a bit longer? As my sons reluctantly agreed, they moved away from my ex and me. No hidden children here. I remarried and had them after. They might seem mature for their age, which leads to misunderstandings, but they are only 13. Like their father, they have kind hearts and strong wills. My pride and joy.
So, you were really just here on a trip? But where's your husband?
My ex looked around suspiciously. He had sudden work come up and is handling it remotely at the hotel. The boys wanted to visit a specific store, so we split up for a bit. I was enjoying my time until you approached, which ruined my mood. I sighed dramatically, and with a serious face, my ex said, "You're lying. You got dumped again, didn't you?" I couldn't understand why he was so keen on seeing me as unmarried. I wouldn't lie about such nonsense. Please don't say weird things in front of my sons anymore. As I glared, I noticed my ex's son in the background. Ethan spoke up, recognizing him.
That's the guy from the local public middle school.
You know him, he's their son. Ethan looked somewhat enlightened.
I see. He's older, but we got to know each other through club activities and practice matches. We've even exchanged contact information. We met during the last exam period, and he seemed really troubled about his home situation. He even texted me earlier, saying he was troubled by how creepy his parents were acting during the trip and wanted to go home. I never thought we'd be at the same place. Now I understand everything, knowing these are his parents.
This little brat. There's no way he'd talk bad about his parents. Stop spewing nonsense.
As my ex started yelling at Ethan, I stepped him back to protect him. As an adult, and as a salesman, that's no way to talk. It's embarrassing.
When I'm working, I put on a nice front. This is my private time. I can do what I want, right?
As I sighed, Ethan began to speak.
He told me that his mother is still seeing his real dad, wondering how long he has to live with a man not related by blood. He wants to apply to a nearby high school close to his real father, but it's too competitive. I wanted to support him, so I got some past exam papers from my friend, and Jake, already mastering middle school subjects, has been helping him as a tutor, right, Jake?
That's right. His feelings are genuine. But I heard that you guys are not allowing him to apply to that school, especially opposed by his mother. Can't you support him in his pursuit of freedom?
Moved by my son's efforts I was unaware of, I felt touched. When I looked at my ex, he was frozen. It's understandable. In the conversation, a shocking truth had been revealed.
His real father. What are you talking about? I am his parent. If you keep up these lies, I'll sue for defamation. You agree, right? You can't let these absurd accusations slide?
Seeking agreement from his wife, she was visibly shaken and anxious. And it seemed he finally caught on.
Are you kidding me? You're saying their story is true? So you tricked me into marrying you? That's outrageous.
No matter what you say, that woman won't open her mouth. You kids should go to him. He must be feeling lonely by now. The boys nodded and ran over to my ex's son. So, where should we start?
What's the point of talking to you? You don't know anything. I'll make her talk one way or another. Just take your kids and leave. You're a nuisance.
Doesn't he consider moving away himself? Just like 15 years ago, you're being duped again. Maybe you should know what I found out after having it thoroughly investigated.
Fine. Let's hear it then.
Finally willing to listen, I began to explain quietly. After our divorce, I couldn't let it go and had a detective look into it. Turns out, that woman was dating another man and you were just the affair. It was impossible for you to have fathered her child.
What? But she told me she had no boyfriend.
It was absurd from the start. A married man and a college student. Because it's impossible for you, who ain't got no seed. She was already pregnant by her boyfriend. That became clear quickly.
Wait, wasn't it your issue? I don't have any problems. I'm perfectly healthy.
He always assumed it was my fault, never wanting to hear his own test results. Even if he's shocked now that he knows the truth, it ain't none of my business. If you think I'm lying, I'll send the results to your family home. Check for yourself. Want me to send a copy of the detective's findings too?
No, don't. That would upset my mother. If what you're saying is true, why did she marry me instead of her boyfriend? They could just be together and raise the child?
He was right. I thought the same. Her boyfriend's family is wealthy, and he was set to join his father's company. Getting her pregnant in college and marrying her would have disgraced his family. They strongly opposed it, refusing to allow the baby to be born, and paid her off. Desperate not to give up on their child's life, they used you.
I'm such a fool. Your story implies she's still with that man, and I was just played by them both?
My ex choked on his words, overwhelmed with frustration. His wife watched silently.
But being with me for 15 years is like letting a child see his parents? Right. It's like agreeing to let a child see his parents after a divorce.
When he sought confirmation from his wife, she shook her head apologetically.
Seriously, you could at least nod along to save the trip. It's all ruined now, all because I ran into you again. You jinx.
Don't blame me. You kept bothering me despite my efforts to keep my distance. It's your own fault for not trying to connect with your son, even if there was no love left. Legally, you're still married. As I spoke firmly, his wife, oddly enough, started crying. We looked like the villains.
You're right. We are married, so I can't forgive you for making my wife cry.
What? What was this man going on about? Normally, he would blame his wife and apologize to me.
I'll pretend I didn't hear any of this and still sue you for defamation.
That's ridiculous. If you don't want to know more, you should have a proper talk with your wife. Despite my warning, he continued to rant. Over these 15 years, she had really tamed him, and I admired her for that. As I braced myself to reveal more, my husband arrived. My ex stopped in his tracks, his face turning pale. His wife stopped her fake crying and began trembling at the sight of my husband. You arrived at just the right moment. These are the people I was talking about before we got married.
Wait, why is our major client's executive here? Your husband is this man.
My husband was working for a large corporation, showing his skills as an executive. That corporation also happens to be a business partner of my ex-husband's employer. Realizing the potential for a broken contract, my ex quickly caught on. Look, my ex blames me for everything, even what his current wife does. If I go into more detail, You'll get involved too, but are you okay with me telling everything? When I checked with my husband, he nodded.
Why does it matter to an executive? I don't quite understand.
My ex suddenly switched to formal speech, making me want to laugh. These two are second cousins.
What?
My ex's expression turned to complete disbelief. And your wife initially used my husband because they are second cousins, which made marriage possible. Not to mention he's very handsome. My husband has a model-like stature and good looks. Even now, just standing here, he's attracting admiring glances from women. She immediately turned to my husband for a solution. Of course, he pushed her away, telling her to deal with her boyfriend right. I asked her, but she ignored me. It doesn't matter if you deny it. He's a witness. The real father of your son would confirm it too.
Why did you continue the contract with our company knowing this?
My ex asked eagerly. Don't involve my husband. It's strictly business. You should understand that, which is probably why you've remained at the same level all these years.
Getting all high and mighty just because your husband showed up? Huh?
He retorted with respect in his tone, but glaring at me.
Don't trust her. She's self-righteous because she used to gallivant around when she was married to me.
Persistent, aren't you? My mental health suffered because of you and your parents, leading to my irregular periods, and that's why I was medicated, not for contraception. If you doubt it, check the medical records from that time. I visited the doctor because of the boys. Maybe the medical chart is still there. It doesn't matter what you say. I've told my husband everything. Just get out of our sight. As I stood firm, my ex was flustered, and then the boys returned.
Mom, he says he'll have a proper talk with his parents, so let's leave it at that for today. Too many eyes here, and someone might post it on social media, he said. Since my parents can't be relied on, I'll handle it myself.
Jake relayed this to me, then turned to my ex and his wife.
From a child's perspective, I can't stand the thought of living with parents who harbor such big lies. Don't underestimate him because he is a child. Please support him.
Jake glanced and winked at their son, displaying his charming nature. I chuckled at my son's smooth-talking personality. He really takes after his father. We've let our children speak this much. We've failed as parents. Reflect on that, and you two should have a heartfelt discussion. With nothing more to say, our argument ended. Later, I heard from Ethan and my husband that my ex demanded a divorce, leading to a heated argument with his wife. Neither would budge, resulting in a stalemate. Their son went to his biological grandparents' house and revealed everything. Then, it really pissed off his biological grandparents. The wife and the real father were scolded severely. Then my ex was called in, and their divorce was finalized. The real father was disowned for deceiving his parents, and the boy was taken in by his grandparents. Although he couldn't live with his biological father as he wished, thanks to his grandparents allowing visits, he got to see his real father more often than before. And he is being raised as the heir instead of his biological father. As for my ex, he was pushed down the stairs by his wife in a fit of rage and taken away by an ambulance. His wife was arrested on the spot by the police and ended up in jail. My ex, having suffered a head injury, forgot about his wife and son, but somehow remembered me as his wife and tried to take me away after being discharged.
Why'd you leave my side? Don't go messing with other folks' households. Come back to ours.
When he tried to take me forcibly, my sons who came back from school reported him to the police, and he was detained and placed under psychiatric care, being hospitalized at a hospital under police jurisdiction. As a result of this incident, he was fired from his job and abandoned by his parents, leaving him isolated. As for me, I continue to live happily, supported by my loving family. Had my sons not been home at that time, our current peaceful life might not have existed.
Mom, is breakfast going to take much longer? Can I take a shower now?
That's not fair, Jake. I want a shower too. I'm sweaty from running.
In front of me, my considerate sons and my smiling husband made me feel grateful as I prepared our family meal.
Is it okay if I ask something?
Sure, what is it?
Why are you so cold to Dad? Just now, he looked really shocked and went off alone.
Do you like Dad?
What? Yes, of course, I do. Isn't that obvious?
I could tell you why I'm cold to him, but it might hurt you. Are you ready for that?
I don't mind getting hurt. Can you tell me why?
All right, I'll say it. Dad's probably having an affair.
What? My son suddenly accused his husband of having an affair. However, there were no signs of trouble in our marriage, and he was serious about his work. I couldn't believe what my son was saying. Yet, he has an IQ of 140. He wouldn't say this without any basis. I decided to listen to my son's detailed story and verify the facts together. After 15 years of marriage, it seems I had been cheated on for 10 years. Moreover, my husband was likely planning a trip with his affair partner. Could it be? Since that time, it seems I've been cheated on for 10 years. Now I had to reconsider the relationship with my husband. Looking at my son's face, I noticed a slight change in his expression.
You got hurt after all, didn't you? This is unforgivable. Can I make Dad regret it?
My son seemed to have a plan. I decided to go along with my son's strategy. I am Erica, a 42-year-old office worker, just an ordinary person. I married Sean, a 45-year-old salesman, 15 years ago. He was slightly successful, but not particularly outstanding. We met through a common friend, and our meeting was not dramatic, nor was our marriage born out of a great romance. The only slightly unusual thing was that it was a shotgun wedding. But even that was not particularly rare. We were like the template of an average married couple. However, there was one thing we could brag about, almost wanting to shout it out loud.
That's an amazing score again. Isn't that a perfect A+ in history?
The tests at school aren't so hard.
I'm still impressed. When I was in middle school, I worked hard to get C.
Comparing us is pointless, isn't it?
It was usual for our son to score well on tests. We both were delighted every time our son brought home good grades. Our son, Hart, was 15 years old. With exams becoming more intense, it was supposed to be a challenging time, but we were not worried at all. He was so excellent that we sometimes doubted if he was really our child. He seemed smarter than both of us already. We realized our son was smart when he was 4 years old. At that time, he often clashed with other kids. According to his kindergarten teacher, He would initiate conversations with friends, and before long, they would start getting angry. I asked my son why he was saying things that made his friends angry. "You made your friend angry again today. Why do you always say things that make them mad?"
But if you gather the paper and tear it, you can use the glue right away, right? I told them that, and they said I was being annoying.
I didn't quite understand what my son was saying, but it seemed he was just giving advice to his friends. However, his friends wanted to do things their own way, which probably led to the arguments. As such clashes with friends continued, and we couldn't quite grasp the situations, my husband and I wondered if our son might have a developmental disorder, so we consulted a hospital. At the hospital, they conducted an IQ test to objectively assess our son's development. My husband and I were surprised by the results.
His IQ is 140.
Is 140 considered high?
Yes, the average is 100, so that's quite high.
But Hart doesn't seem very good at communicating. Sometimes we don't understand what he's saying.
That might be because Hart is only 4 years old and has limited words and expressions. He understands things well but might only be able to line up the important words because he doesn't know how to express them fully. I talked to Hart earlier, and he was using conjunctions like but and so. This means he can think things through and has his own conclusions.
But he often makes his friends angry.
That's a trait often seen in intelligent children. Hart is quick thinking, so he understands outcomes and conclusions faster than other kids. That's probably why he offers advice. But if Hart's thoughts advance faster than his friends, they might not understand him, leading to clashes. It's like with us adults, right? Even if something is correct, if someone talks about a specialized, complex topic for too long, we get frustrated because we don't understand.
I see. So, Hart is a genius, and we're the ones who haven't been able to understand him.
Well, you could think of it that way. But remember, even though his IQ is 140 now, it can change with age and development. So don't focus too much on the number. Some people push their kids too hard thinking they are smart.
Got it. I'll be careful. The doctor warned us not to put too much pressure on our child because of high expectations. Seeing us happy about the IQ of 140, he must have been concerned. But no parent would not be pleased to hear their child is smart. Knowing our son had an IQ of 140 made all his unusual daily behaviors suddenly make sense. When we bought him a book, he would quickly want the next one. We thought it was restlessness, but he just remembered the content quickly and wanted more. Sometimes he would stare at the TV remote for ages, then start pressing various buttons. We thought it was mischief, but he was curious about how the remote worked. I was happy about my son's high IQ, but I was also pleased to understand his thoughts better. He had an interest in various things and absorbed knowledge rapidly with high concentration. The doctor said IQ could change, but my son remained intelligent. Just imagining his bright future made me happy. However, around this time, a dark future was approaching without my knowledge. After our son took the IQ test, my husband began to put more effort into his work than ever before. He started working late and often went out saying he needed to study on weekends. While it's good to be diligent, I worried he was overdoing it. Working hard is good, but are you okay? You know, many people get sick from overworking, right?
Don't worry, I'm fine. Hart will need more money as he enters elementary school, right? He might want to go to tutoring or attend a private school. Plus, Hart is smart, so I, not being very bright, have to show some effort to maintain my dignity as a parent.
His joke-laden response made me realize he wasn't overexerting himself, which reassured me. As Hart entered elementary school, his vocabulary and expressions grew, and we no longer had trouble understanding his conversations.
Why do we have to get permission from the teacher just to go to the bathroom during class? Is going to the bathroom such a big deal?
If you go without telling, the teacher won't know where the students are.
I see. But then, wouldn't it be better to have a sign on the desk saying toilet? That way, there's no need to interrupt the class for permission, and the teacher can still keep track of where everyone is.
But then, some kids might put up the sign and skip class instead of going to the bathroom.
If they slack off and end up in trouble, it's their own fault, so why not just let them be?
That can't happen. If something goes wrong, it would be the teacher's responsibility.
Enforcing rules and bearing responsibility. Being an adult sure is complicated.
Though he has become better at conversing compared to his kindergarten days, his overly logical and somewhat dry approach remains a flaw. His quick thinking continues to set him apart from other children, a trait that has persisted since kindergarten. However, Hart is aware of his rapid thought processes and seems to be trying to adapt to others. As a method to better relate, he began showing interest in psychology by the 5th grade. He thought that if he understood the other person's psychological condition, it would be easier to match them. This approach is unusually mature for an elementary student, resembling how an adult would strategize to improve workplace relationships. My husband continues to work hard, but his efforts to maintain dignity in front of Hart don't seem to be going very well.
Your job is in sales, right? Do you enjoy it?
Well, it's not always fun since it's work, but being in sales means you are out and about, kind of like the face of the company. It has its rewarding moments.
But being out so much, there must be some who slack off, right?
Well, there are some like that, I guess, but I don't do that.
I'm not saying you're slacking off.
That's right.
Hart tries hard to fit in with those around him. He may have a dry side, but he never looks down on others. However, for some reason, he seems particularly cold towards his father.
Do you think Hart hates me?
I don't think so. He knows you work hard.
But he's not cold to you like he is to me, right?
Well, maybe. They say a father can never beat a mother in parenting.
That's a tough spot to be in.
My husband is facing a classic paternal dilemma. Given Hart's logical nature, trying to change the way he interacts or buying him off would likely be counterproductive and seen through by Hart. It seems the only option is to work harder to impress him and show how great a father he is. Putting my husband's concerns aside, Hart continues to grow. After graduating from elementary school, he moved on to a local middle school. Now in his 2nd year of middle school, it's time to start preparing for exams seriously. But there's no need to rush or worry about Hart. However, now that he's in his early teens, his adolescent phase is a new concern.
Studying all the time can cause stress, right? It's Sunday today. Want to go out and have some fun.
I like studying, so I don't get stressed. Actually, being forced to go somewhere I don't want to is more stressful.
Is that so? Sorry about that. Then, keep up the good work with your studies.
By the way, Where were you planning to take me?
Well, how about a museum? It's different from seeing pictures and textbooks. Seeing the real artworks can be a great experience, don't you think?
Have you ever been to a museum?
Not yet, but I thought it might be good for you. So, does that make you want to go?
Did you not hear me say, by the way?
Hart cut off the conversation with his father and left the living room. Left behind, my husband seemed as if he had been heartbroken and wandered out of the house alone. Watching the interaction between Hart and my husband, I felt sorry for the latter, left behind. In the past 3 years, Hart has become even colder towards his father. It's a bit pitiful for my husband. Deciding to help, I approached Hart for a talk. Hart, are you studying? Can we talk?
Sure, what's up?
As I entered Hart's room, he stopped studying to talk. I'm sure if it were my husband, Hart would have asked him to leave so he could study. Why is he so cold towards his father? Given my son's quick perception, I knew he would immediately sense the real question I wanted to ask. Deciding against any roundabout tactics, I chose to ask directly, "Why are you so cold to Dad?" Earlier, he was shocked and left the house alone. My question seemed to pose a complex problem for Hart, leading to a pensive silence in the room, filling me with an odd tension. After a moment, Hart began to speak with a troubled expression.
Do you like Dad?
What? Yes, of course. His unexpected question took me aback. Although I answered honestly, it seemed to trouble Hart even more.
Your words seem genuine.
Of course, they are.
I could tell you why I'm cold to him, but it might hurt you. Are you prepared for that?
What are you talking about? I didn't understand what my son said, so I was confused. It felt like talking to the young Hart. But when he was in kindergarten, he just couldn't express his thoughts well, so he had many things in mind and understood. Now he still must have comprehended something significant to pose such questions. Therefore, if I ask why, I will get hurt, as my son says. Nonetheless, for the sake of improving the relationship between my son and husband, I needed to hear it. I steeled myself, bracing for what was to come. I don't mind being hurt. Can you tell me why?
Your response seems genuine too. So, I'll tell you. I think Dad might be having an affair.
What? I was stunned by his unexpected revelation. An affair. But our marriage isn't troubled, and he's diligent at work. I found it hard to believe my son's claim. That can't be true, right? What's gotten into you all of a sudden?
I'm still speculating, but Dad often lies, especially about work and the company. So, I thought maybe he's having an affair with someone from work.
When has Dad ever lied?
He lied just before. He said he's never been to a museum, but I think he has. Remember when I was into psychology books in 5th grade? I learned how to spot lies then.
Is that about observing eye movements or voice tone? Can you really detect lies that way?
I use more advanced techniques, like leading in conversation and spotting the immediate reactions people show when they lie. You showed confusion and resolve when I asked you earlier. I draw out and observe such reactions during conversations.
So, you've been spotting Dad's lies since 5th grade.
Right. The first time I thought Dad was lying was when he denied slacking off. It wasn't about slacking off, but something felt off. Over these 3 years, the lies I've pieced together point to an affair. But as I said, the affair is just a hypothesis. Still, I believe Dad is unfaithful, and I can't be close to someone like that.
No matter how smart my son is, I found it hard to believe he could easily detect lies. However, as long as he believes my husband is unfaithful, the problem remains unresolved. I pondered how to mend their relationship.
It'd be good if I could be certain my dad isn't having an affair.
I see. It seemed he could read my thoughts, making his lie detection claim more credible. But how can we find out if he's not having an affair?
I need your help with something I can't do alone.
Okay, what can I do?
I've researched that if someone is having an affair, it might show up in credit card histories.
I see, but we don't get paper statements anymore. Your father switched to electronic statements. I've only checked a bank account, so I only know the total amount charged, not what your father spends on with the card.
That's a common way to avoid statement scrutiny. Let's check the web statements. Are you using a family credit card?
Yes, it is a family card, but is that an issue?
No, it's actually better. It's illegal to check the card history without permission, even for family members. But since it's a family card, the history includes both your and Dad's transactions, right? So, it's inevitable that we'll see Dad's transactions too.
That's a gray area, huh?
Do you know the account ID and password?
It's okay. I keep important passwords noted down, so it should be there. Feeling like a detective, I got a bit excited about the task. While it felt wrong to doubt my husband, I believed he would understand once I explained everything and apologized. More so, he should be grateful if this helps improve his relationship with our son. Together, we accessed the computer to check the credit card statements and found several unbelievable charges. What is this? These charges?
These hotel names clearly suggest they are motels, visited every 1 or 2 weeks. There's always a restaurant payment before each motel visit. He's been dining out before going there.
I was shocked, having firmly believed my husband wasn't unfaithful. But Hart, having suspected the affair, remained calm. Why would he engage in an affair?
There's no real reason for affairs. People who are content at home still have them. It often starts with someone feeling a sudden attraction, calling it a moment of madness. So, pondering why he started it is pointless. Even if there's a reason, it doesn't justify the affair, and we don't need to understand the feelings of someone who cheats.
You're right, but I never noticed any signs of infidelity in him.
Mom, you're watching too much drama and online videos. Do you think signs of infidelity are always obvious, or that you'd stumble upon the affair scene? People who cheat are determined to hide it. It's usually like this, discovering it when you least expect it.
As I grappled with the shock of my husband's affair, Hart methodically continued to check the online statements.
We can only see transactions from up to a year back. I wonder how long this has been going on. The duration of the affair is important, right?
It was about 10 years ago that he started putting more effort into his work. Could it have been since then? I might have been cheated on for 10 years.
You remember well, even though it was 10 years ago.
It was right after Hart took the IQ test. That's why I remember. I acknowledged my husband's affair internally. The sudden confrontation with reality hit me hard. I would have preferred signs of conflict or unfamiliar scents on his clothes, anything that could have given me a clue. Now I must reassess our relationship. I noticed a slight change in my son's expression, which had been calm.
You're hurt after all, Mom. This can't be forgiven. Should I make Dad regret this?
It seemed Hart had a plan. I decided to go along with it. After uncovering the affair, I continued life as if nothing had happened.
There's a business trip next week.
Business trip? That's rare. When is it?
I'm leaving on Thursday, and the work ends on Friday. But coming back the same night is a hassle, so I'll stay another night and return leisurely on Saturday.
On Thursday morning, my husband left for the business trip. After seeing him off, it was time for me to leave too. I'm heading out too. I've prepared some food and put it in the fridge. You can manage it, right? Just be careful with locking up and handling fire.
Don't worry so much. Since you've even taken time off work, you should relax and enjoy.
Leaving Hart in charge at home, I departed, suitcase rattling behind me. I got on a plane and headed to the resort hotel I had booked. I haven't visited a resort hotel in a long time. It's a short trip, 1 night and 2 days, but I plan to relax at the pool and get over my daily fatigue. I arrived at the hotel. It is much bigger and nicer than the picture. I felt an urge to explore. After settling my luggage in the room, I wandered around, capturing the beautifully detailed architecture with my smartphone. I plan to show the videos I captured to my son upon my return. After enjoying or relaxing in the pool and indulging in delicious meals, I felt content. The next morning, I checked out hotel, but didn't leave the hotel immediately. Instead, I sat in the lobby. After a while, I saw a familiar face with an unfamiliar woman and approached them. What a coincidence meeting you here. Have you visited the famous waterfall? Or is sightseeing next on your agenda?
What? Why are you here?
My husband reacted as expected. I claimed it was a coincidence, but of course, it wasn't. I had targeted this place knowing about my husband's affair. I checked the web statements. You paid a travel agency with your credit card, right? I called them. When reviewing the web statements, Hart noticed the payment to the travel agency. Knowing the company's name, I called them, pretending I needed a brochure because I lost mine. I was nervous about picking up the brochure in person, fearing recognition if my husband had booked with his affair partner. Still, fortunately, the staff didn't remember the faces of their many clients. I easily obtained the brochure, revealing my husband's travel destination, and casually confirmed where he would be staying. Is this the food from the hotel I'm staying at?
No, you're staying at the place in this picture.
Matching the travel dates with his supposed business trip made it easy to pinpoint the location and time, leading me to confront the affair scene. Is this your affair partner?
What are you talking about? I told you it's a business trip. This person is from work.
Even without hard skills, it was obvious he was lying. His attempt to remain calm while panicking was evident. I see. This is how Hart discerned his lies. Oh, she's your colleague, I see. Thank you for always taking care of my husband. Would you mind if I take your business card? The two exchanged a silent, uneasy look before the woman reluctantly handed me her business card.
See, the company name matches where I work. She's a coworker. You understand now, right? It's all a misunderstanding. Just go home.
All right, I get it. She's a coworker. But isn't it inappropriate for coworkers to share a room?
How do you know that?
Struggling to suppress a smile, I showed him the video from my phone, which occasionally captured him with a woman, including entering the same room together. Photos and videos of trips and shared accommodations are evidence of an affair, don't they?
What are you doing? This is a privacy invasion.
It's not covert filming. I was merely capturing my solo trip, and you happened to walk into the frame. If you're going to complain about my travel video, would you do the same to others? Look, that couple is taking photos. We might be in their shot. Go on, tell them to stop filming us. Unable to do such a thing, my husband just glared at me in frustration. That was all he could muster. This was all part of the strategy Hart conceived. Relying solely on the credit card history wouldn't suffice as proof of the affair. So Hart and I brainstormed to gather solid evidence. However, every strategy I proposed was systematically rejected by my son. What about planting a bug in his bag?
That's illegal. Besides, the battery would die, right?
What about hiring a private investigator?
That costs a fortune, you know, around $200 per hour. Even if they only followed for 18 hours a day excluding sleep, that's $3,600 a day and over $10,000 for 3 days, not counting travel and accommodation. It's not realistic.
So what then?
Mom, enough with the drama and online video ideas. Let's think of something more practical.
Ultimately, Hart devised the plan of calling the travel agency and using travel footage to capture the affair scene.
Only Mom could carry out the plan. It would be weird for me to call the travel agency for brochures, and I can stay at the hotel alone. So, this is teamwork. I plan and Mom executes.
I felt embarrassed for not contributing much, but my son, with his IQ of 140 and knowledge of psychology, had everything under control. From planning to taking care of my mental state. You two are staying another night, right? Enjoy your stay. We'll talk about the affair and the divorce when you get back. I ended my trip on a high note after refreshing at the hotel and obtaining evidence of my husband's infidelity. Afterwards, we got divorced. Naturally, we divorced smoothly due to the evidence. I gained custody of Hart, and my ex-husband had to pay alimony and child support. However, letting my ex-husband and his affair partner off easily wouldn't complete my revenge. Hart had prepared another move post-trip.
As I predicted, the affair partner was a co-worker, right? So, we'll stir things up a bit by informing their company about the affair.
Got it. So we contact their company to report the affair, hoping for some action against them.
Affairs are private matters. The company can take action. Plus, unnecessarily spreading the word about the affair could lead to defamation charges against us. Forget the drama and internet videos, okay?
Well, sorry, but what do we do then?
Did you get the affair partner's business card?
Yes, I did.
You didn't talk to the affair partner or ask Dad about her, right?
Nope. I followed Hart's instructions.
So, we only know about the affair partner from the business card.
Exactly.
We're supposed to send a certified mail for the affair damages, right? Normally, it has to be sent to the home address. But since we only know her name and workplace, it seems we can send it to her office.
I see. So if the office receives the mail for affair damages, the affair talk spreads, making it awkward for them at work.
Not quite. Others can't open certified mail, so nobody will know it's about the affair. But rumors of the affair might already be circulating in their office. When mysterious certified mail is delivered to the company and Dad gets divorced, others will likely start gossiping more.
The plan unfolded just as Hart envisioned. The affair rumors spread at their workplace, forcing both to resign. Yet, Hart missed one detail. The affair partner was also married. Her affair came to light because of our damages claim, leading her husband to file for divorce and seek compensation from both. The lives of my ex-husband and his affair partner crumbled, and they eventually parted ways amid the chaos. Thus, my revenge for 10 years of betrayal was complete. After settling the matter with my ex-husband and reflecting on everything, I realized something. I watched my son devise the plan, but it wasn't that he knew everything from the start. He researched what he didn't know and applied what he learned. I learned from my son that being smart isn't just about having a lot of knowledge. I worried the divorce would affect him, but it seemed unnecessary.
I've been bothered by Dad's actions since elementary school. Now that it's resolved, I can focus on studying.
Surprisingly, Hart still has much potential for growth. He also became interested in law.
Lawyers like wordplay and interesting, especially when making people who do wrong reflect on their actions.
He noted, aspiring for a career in legal work. That sounds expensive. I'm determined to work hard for my son's future.
Ugh, you're so annoying. You and Emily are really annoying. I wish you guys would just disappear.
Ryan lashed out at me and his own daughter with unbelievable harsh words. Just when I thought I couldn't trust this man anymore, an incident happened. Emily. One day, when I returned home from work, Emily was sitting on the ground in the yard, hugging her knees. Her hands were trembling from the cold. Even with a coat on, her exposed cheeks and the backs of her hands were reddish black. Seeing my face, Emily smiled weakly, relieved.
Mom, welcome back.
Why are you in the yard? What happened? Where's Dad? Emily kept her smile but resignedly murmured.
He went on a trip with Sana.
Leaving her behind for a trip was bad enough, but to specifically tell her it was a family vacation was a malicious and despicable act. What does he think of Emily's existence, of Emily's life? Ryan must be underestimating me, thinking of me as a weak woman with little income. Indeed, he's right. But a mother can become strong at times. A father like this is unnecessary. I am Lisa Johnson. I am a housewife in my 40s. I have 2 daughters. Emily, who is in the 2nd grade of elementary school, and Sarah, who is 3 years old. When Sarah started preschool, I began working part-time. Having not worked since Emily's birth, I found myself physically and mentally tired. However, having had little interaction with others before, I was happy to have conversations with adults.
Mom, I cooked the frozen meals.
What Emily did? Wow, thank you. When I came home 30 minutes after Emily's school ended, she proudly pointed to the microwave. I was touched that she took the initiative to help out, considering how tired I must be from my part-time job. Just the other day, I was still preparing her morning clothes for her. As I moved to hug Emily out of joy, she quickly dodged.
Come on, I've told you I don't like hugs.
It's a bit lonely, but my daughters are growing up fast. However, I've been troubled by the presence of rebellious eldest son recently.
Yuck, what's this food? Disgusting.
My big eldest son, no, actually, he is my husband, Ryan, exaggeratedly complained.
The food's too soft. Gross. How can anyone eat this? It's trash.
Indeed, today's meal was softer than usual. I had informed Ryan that Emily cooked today's meal while preparing it. Yet, I couldn't understand why he deliberately made a scene. Hey Ryan, stop it.
What? Why are you mad? I'm just telling the truth. It's not my fault.
Emily bit her lip and glared at Ryan.
Hey, you think it's okay to make that face at your parents? You're really cheeky. Not cute at all. Can't even cook the frozen meals properly. You're finished as a woman.
Those words should not be directed at a grade school daughter. Anger boiling inside me, I took a deep breath. Just then, Sarah popped her face between us.
Daddy, can't you eat? Sarah will cast a magic spell for you.
Saying that, she showed the sprinkles. Stretching herself, she sprinkled them over Ryan's meal.
Make it tasty. Make it tasty. See, Dad. You shouldn't be picky. Eat lots and grow big and strong.
The tense atmosphere instantly lightened. Ryan's cheeks relaxed, and he patted Sarah's head.
Thank you, Sarah. You're so cute.
Yeah. Sarah is cute. And so is my big sister.
What? No, Sarah's cuter.
Daddy, I love you.
Sarah looked up at Ryan with an innocent smile. She was truly a magician. She easily silenced Ryan, who had been so meanly smirking at trying to belittle Emily. Our family wasn't exactly close, but we were normal, I guess. Ryan didn't show much interest in me or the girls. Even when Sarah had trouble with friends, he was indifferent, saying, so, that's not my problem. But he drinks moderately and doesn't gamble. Of course, he's not rough or forceful either. Just, everything about the house and the girls is left to me. Not a bad person. Just lacking fatherly awareness, I suppose. Our relationship started to crumble about 6 months ago. Ryan came home drunk one day, in an unusually good mood.
Hey, your king has returned.
He hassled the kids who were about to go to bed.
Dad, don't cling to me. Your smell is so alcoholic.
Hey, don't say that. I'm a good guy, right? You love me, right?
Stop it.
Looking back, it was from that day that Emily started avoiding Ryan, calling him stinky, and Ryan began to find Emily not cute and annoying. Even on days when he hadn't drunk, Emily glared at Ryan, calling him stinky. I might not understand because of my chronic sinusitis, but the girls her age are sensitive, I guess. She doesn't speak ill of him to his face, so I'm watching over this as part of her growing up. But Ryan is the problem.
I've got souvenirs.
Coming home from work, Ryan proudly announced, showing us a box of cakes. Even Emily smiled at that moment. But when we opened the box, there were only 2 cakes. I secretly felt down, thinking they were only for the girls, as I love cake too.
Here, Sarah, you have the chocolate cake. You like that, right?
Yeah. Love it.
And this cheesecake is for...
Ryan smirked mischievously.
For Daddy.
Emily's smile vanished in an instant. She turned her back to Ryan immediately, turning on the TV as if to say how ridiculous. I couldn't help but let out an annoyed huh. Wait a minute. What about Emily's share? That's not nice. It was as if Ryan had anticipated being confronted, smirking in a way that was unsettling.
Well, I bought the cakes with my own money. You've got no right to complain. Here, Sarah, let's eat together.
Yeah, let's eat. Emily, Mom, let's share.
Innocent Sarah brushed aside any malice. Happily hopping around, she began to prepare plates and forks for all four of us.
No, it's just for Daddy and Sarah.
Ryan was flustered, but turned back to see Sarah's sparkling smile. He bit his lip hard. Yet, Emily still seemed uncomfortable. So, I ran to the nearby grocery store and bought a bunch of sweets. Let's start the dessert party. Finally, a smile returned to Emily's face. On the contrary, Ryan clicked his tongue and conspicuously ate the cheesecake, Emily's favorite, making chewing noises and strangely showing off. Ryan must have been particularly displeased because he was still complaining the next morning.
You're spoiling Emily too much. Buying her cake just because she whines a bit, that's only going to make her more arrogant. She's cheeky, so you need to discipline her properly.
Discipline? Is giving cake only to Sarah, and not to Emily your idea of discipline? That's just cruel to Emily. And Sarah can't even enjoy her cake comfortably. Think about how both of them feel. Ryan can't seem to keep up with Emily's growth. But how does responding to a rebellious daughter with a rebellious attitude help? I wish Ryan would realize he's a parent. You're a father, you know. Ryan slammed his hand on the table.
Yo, I'm a father. A kid shouldn't be disrespecting her father. It pisses me off how she's always glaring at me.
Raising his voice like some street thug.
Ugh, so annoying. Seriously annoying. You and Emily are really annoying. I wish you guys would just disappear.
If these were the words of a son in the midst of teenage rebellion, maybe as a mother, I could have handled it. But the reality is, Ryan is Emily's father. Those are not words a father should say to his daughter. Disappear? What are you talking about? Are you sane?
Yo, it's over. Talking to you is a waste of time. I have work to do, you know. Unlike you, I'm busy. If you want to talk more, pay me. $30 for 3 minutes should be fine. You're working part-time, you can afford it, right?
Ryan couldn't hold back his laughter, spitting out in disdain.
Part-time pay is like $8 an hour, right? Well, with that standing, you still complain to me. You're living thanks to me, so it's your role to make my life comfortable. First, handle that spoiled Emily. Make sure she can't say she's spoiled by knocking her down. Got it?
My whole body heated up. I was boiling with anger. I wanted to hurl all sorts of vile words at Ryan, but I couldn't make a sound. Probably, I was just turning red, opening and closing my mouth.
Wow, what a weird face. Why did I marry someone as nagging and ugly as you? Oh, right, because of Emily. So, is my life ruined because of Emily? Everything's Emily's fault, ho.
Ryan left for work with a smirk. I suppressed the urge to scream and hit my chest hard. Thankfully, Emily and Sarah were still asleep. I was furious at Ryan, but also angry at myself. I want to protect Emily and Sarah. I squatted down, sobbing silently. How powerless I am. I want to leave Ryan immediately, but I can't. As Ryan said, my part-time pay is less than $10 an hour. Alone, I can't provide a life for my daughters any different from now. Even a father like him is needed. My powerlessness made me feel so frustrated and pathetic, I couldn't stop crying.
Mom, good morning. Mom, are you okay? Eh?
The voices of Emily and Sarah came from behind. I couldn't show my daughters a face wet with tears. I couldn't even respond as I huddled there. After a while, I took a deep breath and wiped away my tears. Then, I was the usual cheerful mom. Sorry. Good morning to you both. I will make breakfast right away, so wait for it, okay? I tried to head to the kitchen with a smile for my daughters, but Emily grabbed my hand tightly. Sarah gripped my other hand. The warmth of their hands conveyed to me, I want to protect them. That resolve became even stronger. However, trying to have a conversation with Ryan afterward was futile. Ryan wouldn't listen.
It's Emily's fault for having such an annoying attitude.
He stuck to this one point. Indeed, Emily doesn't say it, but she obviously avoids Ryan, so I warned her.
But he smells.
Even though it's that age, it's not good to show it in her attitude. Even a father can get hurt. I tried to reason with her, but Emily hesitated and mumbled, But,
Dad's smell, it's really bad. Don't you notice, Mom?
Emily's eyes brimmed with tears. Then she finally shared the feelings she had been holding inside. What? Dad smells sweet to you? I was confused, and Emily nodded emphatically. The relationship between Ryan and Emily remained the same. Ryan dotted only on Sarah and treated Emily roughly.
Sarah's really cute. If only Sarah's with me, I'm happy.
Ryan would say. I was about to speak out in anger when Emily stopped me. Whatever I said, it would only lead to a meaningless fight.
Just Sarah, that's stupid.
Emily muttered quietly so only I could hear, and shrugged in exasperation. The incident happened this weekend. I had a rare Saturday part-time job, so I went to work for half a day.
What? Part-time on a Saturday? Well, I'll look after Sarah, so you go work without worries. You can earn at least tonight's dinner money, right?
I was irritated by Ryan's sarcastic tone, but if it was just Sarah, whom he adored, I thought it would be okay to leave her with him. I didn't want Emily to be mistreated by Ryan when I wasn't there, so I had her go to a friend's house in the morning. After noon, around 2 p.m., I hurried home. I was supposed to be back by 1 p.m., but it got delayed. Ryan, did he feed Emily and Sarah lunch? No, they're probably waiting for me. As I rushed to unlock the front door, I felt a slight presence from the yard. Our yard is tiny, just enough for Emily's school project, a pot of cherry tomatoes. It's winter, so no cherry tomatoes can be harvested, and it's not spacious enough for playing, so the girls usually don't go out there. A bad feeling made me peek into the yard quietly. What? There was Emily, sitting on the ground in the yard. I rushed over, her hands trembling from the cold as she hugged her knees. Emily, what happened? Even with a coat, her exposed cheeks and the backs of her hands were reddish black. I wrapped her ice-cold hands and rubbed them. Seeing my face, Emily smiled weakly, relieved.
Mom, welcome back.
Sorry to keep you waiting. But why are you in the yard? What happened? Where's Dad? Emily kept her smile but resignedly murmured.
He went on a trip with Sarah.
I remembered Ryan being unusually cheerful this morning, happy to spend time with just Sarah. I had dropped Emily off at her friend's house and then headed to work. I had also told Ryan that Emily would be back by noon. So, around noon, when Emily came home, it seemed that Ryan and Sarah were just leaving. A trip, a family trip. Telling her explicitly about a family trip was an act full of malice, the worst kind. Moreover, he didn't even leave the house key, leaving Emily out in the cold. What does he think of Emily's existence, of Emily's life? Are you all right? I was too late. Sorry, it was cold, wasn't it? It's okay now. I hugged Emily tightly. Sitting on the damp, cold ground, Emily finally let her tears fall. I no longer want to see Emily's sad smiles or her tears. Then we'll move out, just us, our family.
What?
Emily's eyes widened. In fact, I had been planning to move for a while, and I decided now was the time to act.
But what about Sarah?
Sarah will be okay, I guess. With a little reassurance for Emily, who was slightly anxious, we immediately started preparing to move. While packing for the move, I called Ryan. It took a while to get through, but after redialing about a dozen times, Ryan finally answered the phone.
What? You're calling too many times. It's scary.
Ryan himself should know best why I was calling incessantly. Where did you go leaving Emily behind?
Just out with Sarah. She's my kid. Is it bad to take her out?
It's fine to go out, but leaving Emily behind is horrible. I tried to stay calm, but I couldn't help raising my voice. I was afraid of Ryan freaking out at such an attitude, but surprisingly, he was nonchalant.
I think Emily is old enough to stay home alone. 'Cause she is already in elementary school. You're being overprotective.
He seemed to be reveling in their so-called family trip. I could hear, probably, a joyful music of a theme park in the background. You should go home right now and return Sarah to me.
No way. Don't talk about her like she's your property. Sarah loves me more than you.
Ryan was laughing. The unpleasant laughter made me want to cover my ears, but I could faintly hear Sarah's voice.
Hey, is that a call from Mom?
Then the call was cut off. No matter how many times I redialed, I couldn't get through to Ryan again. With no other choice, I left a note on the table saying we were leaving the house, and Emily and I left. Ryan called late at night.
Where are you? Why aren't you there?
Didn't you read the note? Emily and I can't deal with you anymore. That's why we left.
Huh, how about our dinner?
Even now, all he worried about was dinner. I was speechless with disbelief.
Don't mess with me. Your job is to make dinner and clean the house. Get back here now.
I am not coming back.
What did you say? What about today's dinner? It's unfair to just leave like this.
I stayed silent, and then I heard Sarah whining. Daddy, I'm hungry.
Daddy. Hey, Daddy. I'm hungry.
Sarah, Mom left on her own, so no dinner tonight. This is so annoying. Maybe I'll order food delivery. But then, I spent quite a bit on the trip. What a hassle.
While I was concerned for Sarah, I hung up the phone. Ryan can enjoy his time with his beloved Sarah's all he wants. And 3 days have passed. Ryan has been calling frequently, but I've ignored all his calls. Today, too, the phone hasn't stopped ringing since early morning. The calls end and then start again, showing he's quite desperate. Thinking it was about time, I answered the phone.
Hey, I called you so many times. What have you been doing? Come back home right now.
I told you, I'm not coming back.
Shut up. Come back. Just, somehow, deal with it.
I could sense fatigue in Ryan's voice. He hadn't been involved in parenting much, so maybe he was tired from being with Sarah all the time. Pleading from Ryan, I returned home. As I opened the front door, Sarah ran up to me like a dog. She leaped into my arms with force.
Mommy, welcome back.
Sarah, did you miss me?
Not at all. I'm fine.
Sarah smiled brightly and cheerfully responded. Following behind, Ryan staggered towards us.
Where have you been until now?
Under his eyes were bags, and he looked resentful. I left a note saying I was leaving. More importantly, where did you take Sarah without telling me?
I took her to the amusement park.
Before Ryan could finish, Sarah told me.
I went to the amusement park with Daddy.
Wow, Sarah, that's great. Did you have fun with just Daddy?
You know, Ashley Mom was also there.
Oh, Ashley Mom. Turning slowly, Ryan was looking upwards. Hey Ryan, who's Ashley Mom? Ryan seemed to be looking for an excuse, avoiding my eyes.
Well, that, Ashley is just.
Before Ryan could finish panicking, Sarah gleefully revealed the truth.
Ashley Mom is Sarah's new mommy. Now I have 2 mommies. Isn't that great?
I stroked Sarah's head. You seemed happy.
No, that's not right. The only mommy is Lisa, right, Lisa?
Ryan swallowed nervously. Making your child call your affair partner mommy is the worst. I spoke in a surprisingly low voice. We have no choice but to divorce, because of your affair.
Wait, hold on. Let's not talk about divorce. Really, it's not like that with Ashley. It's over.
Ryan tried desperately to cling to me. I knew you were having an affair.
What?
Emily told me. She said she smelled something sweet from you. She avoided you not because of the smell, but because she hated having a father who was having an affair. Ryan frowned upon hearing Emily knew. Yet, he didn't stop making excuses.
It was just a bit of fun with Ashley, not some big affair, and it's really over with Ashley. Tell Emily it was a misunderstanding, so, no divorce.
Just 3 days ago, he took Sarah on a fake family trip, and now it's over. Hard to believe. I wanted to say more, but I suppose that's just how it is, and I nodded in understanding. Got dumped by your affair partner, huh? Ryan nodded silently. You're a dad with kids. A man who easily breaks his family can't be happy, even if he remarries.
I was trying to be nice, but you mumbling too much already. I'm not the bad guy. It's Sarah's fault Ashley dumped me.
Ryan pointed sharply at Sarah. What do you mean it's Sarah's fault? You had fun at the amusement park, didn't you?
The amusement park, yes. But after you left, I called Ashley over to the house.
Your thoughts are gross.
I had no choice. It's your fault for leaving on your own. Ashley too. After taking care of Sarah for half a day, she left. That quitta.
Ryan was agitated but soon slumped and rounded his shoulders.
Anyway, how's Sarah doing?
How? She's a sweet girl. Even now, trying to stop our fight, she brings us snacks, filling my hands in Ryan's pockets to the brim. Yet, Sarah ran off again to fetch more snacks.
She was all over the place at the amusement park, getting lost numerous times, which was a hassle. But worse than that were her tantrums after we got back from the park. I ordered takeout for dinner, but she cried, not wanting either hamburgers or spaghetti.
Sarah doesn't even like a hamburger or spaghetti in the first place.
It was such a hassle. I even ordered a pizza additionally, but still, she was fussing loudly.
Of course, Sarah likes mac and cheese. She's particular about the product too. She can eat a pizza, but I always serve a bowl of mac and cheese.
What? You're allowing such whims? Sarah is incredibly spoiled. She doesn't sleep well at night, and when she does, she starts crying. When am I supposed to sleep?
That's why Ryan had dark circles under his eyes. Usually, Ryan sleeps in a different room from me and the kids. Though he probably heard the noise, he must have thought it didn't concern him.
She's crazy, right? Suddenly starts running when we're outside. What's with that? I thought she was just excited at the amusement park, but she just darted off into the road. I tried walking her to preschool, but it was impossible.
Ryan was handed more snacks by Sarah. Despite Sarah looking up at him with a smile, Ryan didn't return it and just sat down in the hallway, holding his head.
I'm so tired. It's your fault for how you raised her. You failed at parenting. You're not fit to be a mother.
I crouched down in front of Ryan and peered into his face. I'm not fit to be a mother. You, who knew nothing about Sarah, are the one who's failed as a father. Sarah is already 3 years old. What have you noticed about her in these 3 years? Ryan's face turned red.
Shut up. I'm working, so taking care of the kids is your responsibility. Don't put this burden on me. Just come back.
I stared straight into Ryan's face, my eyebrows lowered. Did we fail at parenting?
Yeah, a big failure.
I guess so, huh? I stood up and looked down at Ryan coldly. For a father to have no interest in his kids and grow up to be a man who cheats, you really messed up in parenting, turning into such a worthless man, Ryan.
What?
Being mean to a defiant child, abandoning one that doesn't conform to your wishes, and you still call yourself a father. We don't need such a failed father. Overwhelmed by my pressure, Ryan couldn't stand up. Somewhere deep down, I had thought parenting was my job, and I had been hesitant because Ryan was providing for us. But I can't continue to be a family with Ryan after his foolishness has been so blatantly exposed. You want me to come back? No way. I just came to pick up Sarah. Ryan, we don't need you. I'm not your mom. I have no obligation to indulge your whims.
What? Are you mad?
Always acting so superior, but Ryan immediately loses his momentum when I push back a little.
Sorry, cheating was wrong, but I've really ended things with Ashley. Okay, she's the worst, you know. She said she wanted to take cute little Sarah if we got married, but then she bails after half a day. Useless, right? She's over 30, still living with her parents, can't even make a decent meal. In the end, you're the only mother for Sarah.
Who was it again who just looked down on me as an unfit mother, trying to smooth things over with such flimsy words right after? Being exposed really shows how unreliable he is. Right, I am the mother of Sarah and Emily, and I'll never abandon them or fail to protect them.
So, as a father, I
cut off Ryan's voice. It's too late. We don't need you. Why don't you go back to your mother and start over? Ryan, whether out of anger or despair, was trembling slightly with his hands on the floor. He breathed roughly, looking down.
Daddy, I'll give you some candy.
Worried, Sarah piled up candy in front of Ryan. Ryan slightly raised his face and took Sarah's hand.
Sarah, you love Daddy, right?
Yeah, I love you.
So, you'd be sad if Daddy was gone, right?
Not really. It's okay if you're not here.
Ryan's smile twisted.
What? You said you love me, right?
Yeah, I love you. Daddy is about this much loved.
Sarah showed her love by putting her index fingers together closely. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. That's practically zero. Then, Sarah spread her arms wide.
And you know, I love Mommy this much.
Running down the hallway, she yelled, "From here to here, that's how much I love Mommy."
Like, I love Mommy more than our house, like the universe.
Sarah's love was unstoppable. As Sarah's smile brightened, Ryan's face turned paler. So that's why we don't need Ryan. Goodbye. Ryan weakly lifted his right hand as if to stop us, but seemed to lack the energy to call out. I picked up Sarah and left the house where we had lived with Ryan. Left alone, Ryan reluctantly called back his affair partner, Ashley. Even if she's not good at housework, she's better than Ryan, who can't do anything. With no troublesome children around, there's no reason their love couldn't reignite. I learned about these two from a mom friend living nearby. She was surprised to see an unknown woman coming and going from my house. I thanked her for worrying and carefully explained the situation to avoid misunderstandings. The story quickly spread around the neighborhood and somehow even reached Ryan's company. It's a small world, indeed. About a month after I left the house, when I contacted Ryan by phone, he responded with joy. "Lisa, is that you?"
Long time no see. Have you been well? Missed me? I've been waiting for your call all this time.
Even though you were living with your affair partner.
What? How did you? No, but I kicked her out.
Kicked her out, as if you were dumped by your affair partner, weren't you?
What?
It seems Ryan felt uncomfortable at his company after the rumors spread that he was cheated on and abandoned by his wife, and he quickly resigned. He must have assumed finding another job would be easy, given his skills. Don't act so high and mighty when you're unemployed, right?
What? How do you know that?
Don't act so high and mighty when you're unemployed.
That was the last thing Ashley hurled at Ryan. The two had a massive fight, yelling in front of the house, as told by the same mom friend. You ran away from an uncomfortable workplace, but couldn't find another job, right? Hitting the nail on the head, Ryan went silent. And yet, at home, you were lounging around, not even bothering to put the dishes in the sink, right? Even the affair partner who loved you couldn't stand keeping such an arrogant, unemployed person around. Despite me telling you that you're a failure, you couldn't grow from it. Ryan's heart must be completely shattered, hurt by me, the kids, and even the affair partner. The reason I contacted you today isn't because I was worried about you, nor because I want to reconcile. I stayed emotionlessly. I already filed a divorce petition. There's no reason to contact Ryan except to sever ties. Ryan, not wanting to be blamed further, agreed to the divorce. We've settled the alimony and property division through a lawyer. This will ensure that my daughters and I won't struggle for a while. Sorry I'm late. When I get home from work, there's a pleasant smell in the air. Oh, we're having mac and cheese today.
Bingo. Grandma and I made it.
Amazing. I can't wait to eat. I moved back to my parents' house with my daughters. Though my parents aren't wealthy, and Emily has to change schools due to the new district.
Friends can be made anywhere. But you only have one mom.
I hesitated to rely on my parents, but Emily encouraged me. Now, with my parents' help, I'm able to work full-time.
Mom, look. Sarah made the carrots in the salad into star shapes. Isn't Sarah amazing?
My parents are indulgent with Sarah's peculiarities and spontaneous actions. Probably because they have more patience for their adorable grandchild. I remember them being stricter with me as a child. Emily and Sarah made mac and cheese is so delicious.
There's a secret ingredient. Guess what?
Love. Emily smirks dismissively.
The correct answer was Gouda cheese.
Sarah couldn't hold back and revealed the answer. This ordinary life feels overwhelmingly happy.
John, what are you doing here? In the middle of the night, feeling that I heard a noise from upstairs, I went up the stairs and bumped into my husband coming out of our daughter's room. He seemed surprised to see me.
Oh, I heard the noise too and went into Emily's room. She was crying because she had a nightmare. So I was comforting her.
Would a daughter who usually keeps her distance from her father at her age really be comforted by him just because of a nightmare? It was a somewhat unconvincing explanation. After that, my husband's visits to our daughter's room at night became more frequent. Whenever I asked what he was doing, he invariably said that Emily couldn't sleep and wanted him to stay with her. In the morning, my daughter started to yawn constantly and became increasingly groggy due to lack of sleep. And I noticed she seemed to have put on weight around her waist. When I confronted my husband severely, Emily spoke up.
I've been putting up with it, but I can't take it anymore. Listen to this.
When did you get your hands on such a thing? You ingrate.
With a trump card she played, my husband was cornered and had no choice but to admit his wrongdoing. My name is Lena. I married my college senior, John, and we had a daughter, Emily. John adored our only child, Emily, more than anything and often took good care of her since she was young. Emily also grew fond of her father and would often go out to the park or other places with John, even when I wasn't around. When I was busy at work, especially during peak seasons, John would willingly take Emily out to amusement parks or other fun places. No matter how busy he was, John always made sure to attend school events like Emily's Sports Day or Parents' Day. In a world where many men prioritize work over taking care of their children, I am constantly grateful that I married a man like John, who could be called a true hands-on dad. However, as Emily reached her upper elementary years, she began avoiding John, possibly due to her sensitive age.
Hey Emily, how about we go out somewhere together for a change? We could go shopping. I'll buy you something you like.
On a holiday, while Emily was watching TV in the living room, John suggested this.
I'm fine. There's nothing I particularly want right now.
Emily, who has become somewhat mature for her age, recently started feeling embarrassed about going out with her father. Even today, when invited by John, she seemed reluctant and turned down the invitation.
I'm going out of my way to ask you. And this is the attitude I get.
John, perhaps upset by Emily's response, suddenly scolded her. John probably wanted to get along well with Emily, but he often missed the mark, not quite understanding how to handle a growing girl. And he would end up getting angry when things didn't go well. Hey, don't be so angry. I hurriedly intervened to calm down the heated John. The arguments between John and Emily were not just on this day. When John spoke to her, Emily often responded with a curt attitude. John was shocked by the change in Emily, who had been so affectionate before, but I didn't think much of it, seeing it as a sign of her growing up.
She wasn't like this before.
Well, she's getting closer to being an adult. Don't get so worked up about it, okay? I tried to calm down my husband, who was grumbling in dissatisfaction, without paying much attention to it. But I never thought that my response at the time would be something I'd regret later. If I had paid closer attention to the two of them here, maybe the later incident wouldn't have happened. With the relationship between father and daughter remaining awkward, Emily entered the 6th grade. She grew taller and completely looked like a young lady. Though she had many friends and a cheerful personality, lately she seemed a bit out of sorts. When I asked if something was bothering her, Emily just shook her head, indicating nothing was wrong. Even after contacting the school about Emily's condition, it appeared there were no significant troubles. One night, while I was sleeping in our bedroom, I suddenly noticed John stirring and then getting up. He stood up and left the bedroom. I wonder if he went to get some water. Glancing at the clock on the bedside table, it was midnight. Feeling wide awake, I tossed and turned, unable to fall back asleep. Even after a while, John had not returned to the bedroom. Puzzled but eventually overtaken by sleepiness, I fell asleep again. Were you awake last night? In the morning, while preparing breakfast, I asked John about last night.
Well, I couldn't fall asleep. So I was in the living room.
If you're waking up so often at night, maybe you should see a doctor. Even when I suggested this, he said there was no need because it wasn't bothering him much. Then one day, I noticed John getting out of bed and going somewhere again. At the same time, feeling thirsty myself, I got up from bed following my husband. Heading to the living room, I found it pitch dark and empty. Where's John? Thinking he might be in the bathroom, I didn't worry much and just filled a glass with tap water to drink. As I was about to head back to the bedroom, I suddenly thought I heard a noise from upstairs. Could Emily be awake? With that thought, I went up the stairs. Then I bumped into John coming out of Emily's room. John, what are you doing here?
Lena, you're awake.
John seemed surprised to see me. Is something wrong with Emily? I came up because I heard a noise.
Oh, yeah. I noticed the noise too and went into Emily's room. She was crying because she had a nightmare. So I was comforting her.
You've been on bad terms with Emily for a while. Did you make up?
Even if she acts distant, kids love their parents. She's calmed down and is sleeping now. So let's go back downstairs.
Could Emily, who had been avoiding her father so much, really be comforted by him just because of a nightmare? It was an unsatisfying explanation, but urged by John to go back to sleep, we went down the stairs and returned to our bedroom. After that, my husband John started leaving our bedroom at night more often to visit Emily's room. When I asked what he was doing, he always said Emily couldn't sleep and wanted him to be with her. I also asked Emily if that was true, and she said she was the one who asked her dad to come. Emily is a girl and sleeping with her dad all the time. Plus, wouldn't it affect your work if you're up all night, John?
No, I'm fine even if I lose some sleep if it's for my sweet daughter. Right, Emily?
John answered nonchalantly and looked to Emily for agreement.
Yeah.
However, Emily's face, even as she agreed with John's words, looked clearly troubled. I stopped prying further, thinking if both were okay with it, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Then, in the mornings thereafter, Emily started yawning incessantly, showing signs of sleep deprivation, and often seemed absent-minded. Even her grades, which used to be top-notch, began to decline, causing concern not just for me but also for her teacher. "Hey Emily, is something bothering you? You seem pretty distracted lately," I asked, worried about her health, but Emily just laughed it off, saying, "It's nothing, Mom, you're overthinking it." Then, 6 months later, I noticed something when I went to pick up Emily from her tutoring classes. Children were coming out of the entrance as classes ended, and among them, I spotted Emily. Viewing her from the car, I realized she looked fuller overall, something I hadn't noticed because we were always together.
I'm exhausted. Today was test day, so it was tough.
Emily said as she got into the car. "You worked hard. You must be hungry. I'll get dinner ready as soon as we get home."
Yay. I love Mom's cooking.
Hey, you say the nicest things. Speaking of which, Emily, have you noticed any changes in your figure recently? You seem a bit fuller. At my words, Emily's expression froze for a moment.
Yeah, I've gained weight recently, and my skirts and shirts are tight. I've also not been feeling well.
Really? I'm sorry, I hadn't noticed at all. It might be something serious. Should we go to the doctor tomorrow? I had noticed she looked a bit absent-minded and sleep-deprived, but it must be serious if it's affecting her body. As I spoke anxiously, Emily's face suddenly brightened, and she forced a smile.
Just kidding, it's a lie. I just wanted to make you worry a bit. Maybe I'm just tired. It's really nothing. Forget about it.
My daughter's attempt to dismiss her previous statements only made me more anxious. Could it be? Emily's clearly unnatural behavior made me feel like I understood the cause of the unease that had been building up. When we arrived home, I found John just as he was angrily ending a phone call.
Stop making ridiculous accusations.
He hung up the phone with a look of indignation. Who were you on the phone with? You seemed pretty upset.
It's nothing, just a wrong number. Don't worry about it.
John brushed it off with a laugh and said he was going out for his usual walk before leaving the house. Emily's condition, John's behavior. Feeling that something was amiss, I checked the phone John had been using to talk to someone. This number is. Searching through the call log, I was puzzled to see the displayed phone number. It was Emily's school number. Why would John show such anger? What were they talking about? And why lie about it being a wrong number? With a growing sense of unease, I felt I had to check and call the school. Identifying myself as Emily's mother, I inquired if something had happened concerning her. It turned out that John had been talking to the school nurse just before. The nurse answered the phone and explained. Hearing this, I was speechless with shock.
During a recent physical exam, we discovered that Emily had developed shingles all over her body. We suspect it's due to stress, and I had just discussed this with her father, but he abruptly hung up, insisting that his daughter was fine.
The nurse's tone was quite urgent. Despite this, why did John adamantly deny it? His unusual behavior made me suspect that the changes in Emily's health might be connected to him. I knew I had to uncover the truth immediately. Thinking this, I made a request to the school nurse. She agreed to help, considering it was for Emily's sake.
I'm home.
We need to talk.
What's with that serious face?
John, oblivious to my grave demeanor, just chuckled. The person you were talking to earlier was the school nurse, right? Why did you lie about it being a wrong number? John looked startled, probably not expecting me to call the school back.
Well, you see, you worry too much. I heard the story, and it wasn't anything serious, so I didn't bother telling you.
Nothing serious? How can you be so sure?
Emily is clearly healthy. Saying she's sick is just a baseless accusation.
John became defensive and argued back at my words. Baseless? Emily is showing signs of stress on her body. Don't you have any idea why her health might be changing?
That's a baseless accusation. I don't know anything. Emily isn't saying anything either.
Not saying anything? Who's been threatening her to keep quiet? I talked to Emily about everything while you were out for a walk. Pretending not to know won't help anymore. After hearing about Emily's condition from the school nurse, I immediately talked to Emily. At first, Emily was tight-lipped, but after I gently persuaded her, she tearfully confessed. Emily had been coerced by John to sleep in the same bed with him at night. Although it might be different when she was younger, Emily is now in the 6th grade. For a girl her age, it's naturally uncomfortable to be forced to sleep with a man, even if he is her father. Initially, Emily resisted. But John shouted that it was bad parenting on my part if a daughter wouldn't listen to her father, and he threatened to divorce me and kick me out of the house if Emily didn't obey. Not wanting me to be driven out, Emily reluctantly complied with John's demands. However, just the thought of sleeping next to John made it hard for her to breathe, resulting in stress-induced shingles all over her body. The symptoms of shingles include pain throughout the body, making it difficult for her to sleep, and when she did manage to fall asleep, she'd often wake up to dreams of her father yelling at her. The reason Emily looked drowsy and distracted all the time was that she couldn't get proper sleep. Emily revealed that to alleviate her stress, she had been getting up at night and secretly eating food from the refrigerator. That's probably why her body shape changed so suddenly.
Did you spill everything? I told you not to tell anyone.
While yelling, John tried to grab Emily. I quickly jumped in front of Emily to protect her. I won't let you touch her. Stop hurting her anymore.
Hurting? So exaggerated, huh? I didn't anything sketchy. Just sleeping together represents only a physical affection. What's the issue with a father sleeping with his daughter?
Emily clearly didn't like it. She's showing physical signs of stress, and you still force her. To think that someone who ignores his daughter's feelings could be a father is laughable. I can't continue with you anymore. Overwhelmed by his selfishness, I lashed out in anger, and John began to panic.
Oh no, please forgive me.
He seemed to realize the gravity of the situation now, but it was too late. I could never forgive John for hurting our daughter. I won't forgive you. The only thing you can do is disappear from Emily and my life.
No, it's not like that. I just wanted Emily to be as affectionate with me as she used to be. Don't abandon me.
John collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Emily and I looked down on his pitiful figure with cold eyes. After hearing more about it, John said he felt inferior every time he saw other fathers at school events bonding well with their children, wondering why his daughter was rejecting him.
She used to be such a sweet, obedient girl, always following me around, calling me dad. And then she suddenly became cold, which made me feel lonely.
focusing only on yourself and ignoring your child's feelings. Are you even a father? A girl distancing herself from her father is a sign of growth. It's natural to feel lonely, but you're supposed to endure it and keep watching over her. John started believing that Emily's rejection of him was because of her mother's poor upbringing, justified himself as wanting to correct the wrong education, and pressured her to sleep together at night. He probably thought spending the night together would return them to the close father-daughter relationship they used to have. Initially, John was facing his own stresses at work, being held accountable for problems by his boss, and dealing with young subordinates who wouldn't follow instructions. He lamented that other employees were bad-mouthing him behind his back, and confessed he sought solace in his interactions with Emily. I was utterly appalled by his selfish reasoning. I understand you were stressed from work, but to alleviate that stress by pushing our daughter to the point of making her sick, that's unforgivable.
It's just a form of parent-child bonding. Admittedly, it might have been a little embarrassing, but that's exaggerated to be called it as a stress.
Still saying that? Fine, let's have a third party explain what Emily's condition really is. Saying this, I picked up my smartphone and made a call. Shortly after, the doorbell rang. I welcomed that folks in and led them to the living room.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Just waltzing into someone's house like that?
The person I had called was the school nurse, who had been waiting nearby to explain Emily's condition. As planned, the nurse arrived accompanied by staff from Child Protective Services.
Emily is clearly showing signs of stress, a cry for help.
The nurse stated firmly to John.
That's an exaggeration. Anyone can get shingles. It's just a sign of being a little rundown.
Despite the nurse's explanation about Emily's shingles, John consistently claimed, "It's not my fault." Before such a stubborn John, Emily stepped forward with a determined look, having decided something while watching the situation unfold.
Being threatened to drive Mom out. I've endured it until now, but I can't take it anymore. Listen to this.
Emily pulled out her smartphone and started operating it. Then John's voice began to play from the smartphone. Just like she said, that was an audio recording of threatening, telling her he would get me out of the house unless she slept with him.
What? How did you get that? Trying to frame me? You ingrate.
John, not expecting Emily to have recorded the conversation, started to panic and berate her. But no matter how much he denied it, there was no escaping the truth now. After listening to the recorded audio, the Child Protective Services staff asserted that the cause of Emily's ill health was clearly her father. Being told by a third party that he was the cause, John was shocked into silence. You were using Emily as an outlet for stress. From now on, I won't forgive that kind of thing. No way? As I declared that, John slumped dejectedly. That night, Emily was temporarily taken into the care of Child Protective Services. Leaving Emily with the school nurse and the CPS staff, I was left alone in the house with John. I reiterated my demand for divorce to John.
Hey, reconsider this whole divorce thing, will ya? I admit I may have pushed her despite her reluctance, and I'm reflecting on it. So, I'm gonna turn over a new leaf from now on.
No matter how much you resist, the divorce is final. Do you think Emily wants to live with you after all this? Neither Emily or I can continue with you.
No, I refuse. I will never allow divorce.
Despite my explanations, John refused to accept the divorce until the very end. This conversation is just going to stay at an impasse if we continue like this. Realizing we were getting nowhere, I declared that we would proceed with the divorce through a lawyer. As I packed my things, John tried to stop me, but I brushed him off and left the house. I couldn't bear sharing the same air with him any longer. I decided to stay at a hotel for the night and planned to pick up Emily from the child services the next morning. John called many times after that, but I continued to ignore his calls. There was no point in talking to someone so unreasonable. I blocked John's number. Eventually, he kept resisting the divorce, and we had to hire a lawyer to proceed with the negotiations. With this school nurse's testimony and the recognition of John's repeated harassment of Emily, the divorce was finally granted. Of course, I won custody of Emily. John stubbornly insisted on visitation rights, but when I threatened to demand a substantial amount of alimony, he reluctantly gave up. I heard through the grapevine that John remained in the house we left, but the shock of the divorce seemed to drain his will to work, leading to his dismissal from the company after continued absenteeism. He reportedly lived a disordered life until he could no longer pay for utilities, resulting in a cut-off of services, and eventually, he had to sleep in public parks out of necessity. While I pity John's situation, considering what he did to Emily, I cannot forgive him even now after the divorce. I will likely never see John again. As a single mother, life with Emily began anew. Freed from John, Emily slowly regained her former cheerfulness. Now she's immersed in French pop culture with her friends, even aspiring to study in France, focusing on learning the language, and has finally returned to her bright self, which brings me great relief. Though challenges lie ahead, I'm committed to raising my precious daughter and protecting her smile. That's the vow I made to myself.
Did something happen that you all just showed up out of the blue? One day, the family of my son Michael unexpectedly arrived at our house without any prior notice. I felt gloomy again that day because my son's family, who always visit without considering my schedule, came over. However, Michael and his family didn't seem to care at all. Far from it, they made demands like, bring out some snacks and drinks. I was thoroughly disappointed with their consistently selfish and rude behavior. Can you leave after eating? I have things to do, I said reluctantly while serving tea and cookies, but there was no response from Michael and his family. Instead, they suddenly announced something outrageous without any preamble.
We're moving into your house next week.
I panicked but desperately rejected the idea. That's impossible. Yet, Michael and his family wouldn't listen at all. Instead, I was shocked to hear them bossing me around and lost my words. That night, feeling at a loss, I decided to seek help from my friends. My name is Sue. I've been living alone in my longtime home since my husband Keith passed away 5 years ago. Our meeting was through an arranged marriage. Since we both had a good first impression of each other, we went on several formal dates before smoothly moving on to marriage. I thought I could build a peaceful and warm family with my kind and considerate husband. I had such unfounded confidence because I had fallen in love with him. However, after getting married, I found him to be somewhat sloppy. This was especially true concerning his work. At the time, my husband was a taxi driver with a performance-based salary. So, if he didn't pick up customers and make sales, he wouldn't turn a cent. But initially, during the economic boom, I thought such worries were unnecessary. However, when the bubble economy has collapsed, everything changed. The customers who used to compete for taxes disappeared overnight, leading to days filled with silence. Naturally, his income dropped to less than half of what it used to be. Amidst this dire situation, where taxi drivers competed fiercely for customers, my husband spent his days napping in the car. He couldn't break away from the mindset of earning without hardship, nor did he feel a sense of crisis or attempt to adapt to changing times. Even though he had a base salary in addition to commission, it was only enough to cover the gas, far from sufficient for living expenses. Even when faced with the decision to make efforts to increase sales or to take a bold step and change jobs, my husband remained carefree.
We have savings, and things will get better eventually. It's okay to keep going as we have been,
he said, but such a day never came, and before we knew it, he had the lowest sales at the taxi company. Even my husband felt embarrassed about this situation and started to panic a bit. That said, his sloppy work attitude didn't change dramatically. But being at the bottom was also embarrassing. He wondered if there was a way to escape being the lowest while continuing to work comfortably as before. In a baffling move, he decided to dip into our savings to make it appear as if he had made sales. When I found out, I was so disappointed that I considered divorce. However, my husband earnestly reflected and promised to work seriously, so I put aside the idea of divorce. After that, though there were shaky moments, he worked hard for the family. I also worked, and together we supported our household, eventually buying our current home and paying off the mortgage. Even after my husband passed away, I have been able to continue living much as before. We had one son, Michael. As a young child, Michael was shy and clingy, but around adolescence, he rapidly became more independent and distant. It wouldn't have been so bad if that was all, but around the time he entered college, his behavior started to deteriorate, and he began repeatedly going out at night and staying out without permission. Fortunately, it seemed like he was attending college, but there appeared to be no sign of him working part-time. I was always worried about where his spending money was coming from, and my fears were confirmed. He had been using our retirement savings. I called Michael and my husband to confront them about the savings. Then Michael told me something outrageous.
Dad said it was okay to use it, right? He said with the savings. It's fine if my part-time job is just so-so, right?
I was speechless when I heard that. I knew my husband had always been irresponsible, but I never thought he would teach our child to be the same. Moreover, I was furious that he had unilaterally allowed our son to use our joint savings. I told my son he needed to repay the full amount, but my husband insisted that repayment was unnecessary because he had said it was okay to use. In the end, we agreed to waive the repayment on the condition that Michael would earn his own spending money in the future. Looking back, I wonder if being stricter at that time could have brightened our future. As college graduation approached, Michael struggled with job hunting, but ultimately failed. He ended up becoming a part-timer. Although there are cases where dedicated part-timers are recognized and become full-time employees, I always told Michael about the importance of sticking to one job seriously. But Michael would say,
I don't need such a part-time job.
And then he would quit soon after starting. During this time of job hopping, he met his future wife, Rachel. He was 2 years younger than him and a junior in college. Rachel, who had been sharing an apartment with a friend, seemed to be struggling with her plans after graduation. According to Michael, Rachel had a bad relationship with her parents and didn't want to return home after graduation. However, her roommate decided to move out after graduation, leaving Rachel worried about affording the rent. Michael, who had been Rachel's confidant for some time, proposed living together as soon as they started dating. She also accepted the offer, and they became a couple. And then, when Rachel's roommate situation ended, they decided to move in together. About a year later, they got married when they were expecting my granddaughter, Mary. I had concerns, but secretly hoped that getting married and having a child would make Michael more serious about work. However, his irresponsibility at work didn't change. He's tried to hold down a job a few times, supposedly for the sake of his children, but he always ends up getting fired for unauthorized absences or poor performance. Even so, recently he seems to be making ends meet with a job in construction. It seems Rachel is also working part-time at a supermarket, but either because of her poor customer service attitude or for some other reason, she's been switching jobs frequently. Concerning Mary, my granddaughter, I've noticed a lack of consideration for others, such as manners and moral behavior, which raises doubts about whether she's been properly disciplined. She often barges into my house, taking snacks from the pantry without asking, or eating gifts I bought for friends. But looking back, those were minor compared to what happened next. When Mary reached middle school, she attempted to take my late husband's keepsake without permission in order to cash it in for some pocket money. It was not just once, but several times. Fortunately, I noticed before anything was sold, but since then, I can't let my guard down around her. To make matters worse, Michael tells me,
"You're too strict, Mom. She's your adorable granddaughter. Go easy on her."
With no discipline or correction given to Mary whatsoever. Mary herself seems to believe she can get away with anything when it comes to me, as her thoughtless behavior only continues to escalate. Furthermore, Rachel, her mother, keeps finding excuses to come over, hoping to get free meals and snacks, paying no attention to manners or discipline. I've been patient because they are my only relatives, but to be honest, they've been nothing but trouble. During these frustrating days, I decided to have a mini reunion with friends I met in a college club, the first in over a decade. It's been so long, you guys. What? You became the editor-in-chief of a publishing house. That's impressive. Fitting for the head of our writers' club. My recent life, well, it's been so-so. How about you all? Conversations with trusted friends were so enjoyable that I lost track of time. It seemed each had faced various hardships, but from our conversations, it was clear they were now leading relatively peaceful lives. I felt a slight envy towards them, thinking they probably didn't have to deal with the rude behavior of relatives like I did. But then, one of my friends made a comment that took the situation in an unexpected direction. This friend, like me, had lost her husband and now lives alone in her own home. She has 3 children who are each living their own lives, some married and others enjoying their freedom. She confessed, "I don't want to depend on my children. but I'm feeling anxious about my declining physical strength each year. Moreover, she wants to give up her old, uncomfortable house, but lacks the courage and physical strength to live alone in a new place. And the senior residences nearby are too expensive for her to move into. She mentioned that there had been offers to live with her son's family, but she doesn't get along with her daughters-in-law and prefers not to live with them if possible. Then, one by one, other friends started to share their concerns about old age and grievances with their families. Suddenly, the reunion turned into a life advice session. I also took the opportunity to vent about my son and his family. Though the extent varied, I was inwardly relieved to find that everyone had similar worries. During the discussion, a single friend who is an editor suggested,
"Why don't we all live together?"
She mentioned that there's a trend of living in shared houses, where each household has its own space within one building, allowing for mutual support among friends, while maintaining personal privacy, more so than in traditional roommate situations. She also shared information from an article she had researched for a magazine feature, including the drawbacks of shared housing, maintenance costs, and the process and cost estimates for purchasing such a property. The more we heard, the more appealing it became. I, too, strongly felt that I would rather spend a peaceful old age with friends I get along with than continue being disrupted by my troublesome son and his wife. The others felt the same. As a result, the initiator, myself, and 2 other widowed friends agreed to live in a shared house. Admittedly, it still felt like a fantasy at the time, as finding a suitable property seemed daunting. However, a few months after the reunion, the friend who proposed the idea found the perfect property. It was a house with a garden in the city, sold at a bargain price because it didn't come with land ownership. As we were concerned that leaving behind the land would cause trouble later on, we quickly bought the house, and everything progressed smoothly as we all prepared to move in. I was busily sorting out my house for the move out. One day, out of the blue, Mary showed up at my house without any prior notice, just like she always does. Worried that she might complicate things if she learned about the move, I acted nonchalant, tidying up and washing dishes until she left.
Okay, I'm heading home now.
She said, unusually cheerful that day as she left. Seeing her behavior, I felt an indescribable fear and anxiety. I wondered if Mary had taken anything valuable, so I checked around the house. But nothing was missing. Just to be sure, I checked my wallet too, and everything was normal. I wonder if I've been mistaken. I thought, and for a moment, I felt relieved. But the next day's visit from my son and his family confirmed my suspicions. Did something happen that you all just showed up out of the blue? I was deeply disappointed with my son's family, who always came unannounced. But Michael and his family, unconcerned as ever, demanded snacks and tea. Thinking they were just trying to save on meal costs, I served some simple snacks and drinks and said, "Can you leave after eating? I have things to do." However, there was no response from Michael and his family. Instead, without any warning, they blurted out something shocking.
"We're moving into your house next week."
What? Move here, and next week? That's impossible. I was bewildered by the sudden development. Then Mary pulled out the hidden documents about the shared house.
This is what I talked about yesterday. It's a really nice house, isn't it?
Ah, that is. Finally, I understood the abrupt actions of Michael and his family. I tried to refuse, but the three of them wouldn't listen at all, instead saying whatever they wanted.
Living with us is better than being an old lady all alone, right? You get to live with adorable Mary, and you'll be happy, Sue.
Exactly. We're like the ultimate filial children.
I'm taking the best room. Grandma only needs space for chores and laundry, right? From next week, we can dump everything on her, easy peasy.
Everything they said was shocking, but the most hurtful was realizing my granddaughter only saw me as a maid. Later, my son's family cheerfully left after taking money for food as a punishment for keeping secrets. That day, I forgot to eat or do anything else, consumed by thoughts of how to stop them from moving. But no good ideas came to mind. Desperate, I thought of consulting with my friends at home. Despite the short notice, all members of the share house gathered at my place the next day. So, that's the situation. It's embarrassing, but I feel like I can't do anything on my own anymore. It was humiliating to expose my family's shame, but my friends warmly said, "Thank you for sharing with us." They condemned my unreasonable children and suggested I move to the share house as soon as possible, offering their full support. Thank you all so much. Friends really are the treasure of life. The next day, I hurried with the move. Since the share house was furnished, I only had 3 boxes of personal belongings. Thanks to that, I managed to move into the share house just 3 days after discussing it with my friends, also getting rid of unwanted items in the process. By emptying the house, I ensured I never had to return to my old home again. Thanks to this, I no longer had to worry about bumping into Michael's family. This quick response was possible due to the help of my friends. Not only did they assist with the move, but their families and acquaintances took care of transporting belongings and handling the sale of unwanted items. Even friends who didn't join the shared house helped out. I was deeply grateful for meeting these friends and felt it more than ever at that moment. Having moved in early, I spent my days cleaning the shared house, organizing supplies, and inviting the friend who helped but didn't move in, showing my gratitude. In the evenings, I enjoyed tea in the communal area, contemplating life with my new housemates. I can't wait to live with everyone. Every day was peaceful and fulfilling. One day, I found many missed calls from Rachel on my phone. I had left my phone at home while going shopping at the supermarket. Oh, that's right, it was today. As I remembered why Rachel was calling, seeing the date on my phone screen, she called again. "Hello."
Oh, Sue, not answering the phone, what's the meaning of this? What is all this? I don't understand.
Rachel sounded panicked over the phone, hardly saying anything, but I don't understand.
Turn the speaker on. Hey, what's going on here? Explain properly.
Michael, cutting into the conversation, was yelling furiously. Imagining the two of them in such a state, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Ah, you figured it out."
What are you laughing at? Explain now. Where is our house?
"The house, I had it demolished the other day."
What? You're kidding, right? Why?
"Why, I always intended to sell the house and the land, didn't I?" That's why I refused to live together. With that, Michael fell silent. By that time, the family home had already been demolished and turned into an empty lot. The day I moved into the share house, a friend who helped me move asked me this.
What will you do with the house?
I'm thinking of consulting with a realtor to decide. I replied, but my friend suggested demolishing it would be better, mainly because of my son's family's unreasonable behavior. My friend thought that even if I wasn't there, if the house remained, they would likely move in uninvited, which would complicate the sale of the property later. To prevent that, the best solution was to demolish it immediately. Moreover, my friend's husband was in the demolition business and could start as soon as the next day. Having sold the unwanted items in the house and having some money, I quickly accepted my friend's offer and decided to demolish the old family home. So I managed to give my selfish and insensitive son's family a taste of their own medicine.
Intending to sell it. So, what happens to us now?
Yeah, we've already canceled our apartment lease. Where are we supposed to live now?
I don't know about that. Why don't you talk to the landlord and see if you can move back into your apartment?
That's impossible, of course.
I hate it too. Everyone at the old place avoided me, and I'm banned from all the stores there, so I don't want to go back.
I was inwardly shocked by Mary's statement. It seems that Mary's arrogant behavior wasn't limited to just my home. To sum up her complaints, it seems she was displaying her usual selfish behavior not only at friends' houses, but also at restaurants. Without any sign of remorse or awareness of the trouble she caused, feeling cornered due to the cold reception she received. At that time, when her family decided to move, she ended up transferring schools. For her, it's an unexpected chance for a fresh start, and she seems adamant about not going back to her previous home or school. Rachel also shared her inability to return to their former home, apparently causing financial issues frequently at the local supermarket. She was not only problematic as an employee, but also as a customer, leading to her being banned, just like Mary. Because of that, Rachel was complaining about having to use an expensive online grocery service or having to travel to the neighboring town for shopping. Though they said they had canceled their apartment lease, it turned out they were almost evicted due to failing to pay the rent. The more I heard, the more pathetic the story became, leaving me at a loss for words.
Why would you sell it if you were going to renovate? That doesn't make sense.
Renovate? You said anything about renovating?
Mary did. When I heard about it, I assumed you were turning it into a home with rentals. That would mean we, as family, should live there, right? But you plan to sell, which really makes no sense to me.
Oh, so that's what this was about. I thought something was off. With Michael's explanation, my lingering questions were finally answered. At the same time, I was reminded once again of the selfishness of my son's family. Just figure it out yourselves, I said and hung up the phone. This truly meant I could sever ties with my son and his family. I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders, a sense of relief. However, a few days later, somehow Michael and his family found the shared house and showed up. I thought it best not to let them in, so I locked all the doors and resisted desperately.
Hey, open up. It's your fault we don't have a home, so you should give us this one. Besides, It's a waste for an old person to have such a nice house.
Michael and his family were intimidating, ringing the doorbell repeatedly and banging on the door. My hands shaking, I managed to call the police. Minutes later, the police arrived at the shared house, and Michael and his family left as if fleeing. I managed to get through today, but I was sure they would return tomorrow. Thinking this, I reported the situation to my friends. 2 of them mentioned they had family members who were police officers, firefighters, and members of the armed forces, and they would consult them. Starting the next day, cops from the nearby police department started coming by to check on the share house. Additionally, after one friend moved in earlier than planned, men from the fire department and the armed force began patrolling the area and offering security advice. When Michael and his family tried to approach the house again, they left without saying anything upon seeing the men. Since then, I never saw Michael and his family again. Originally, they had planned to take over the shared house before my friends moved in. However, they were unable to execute their plan because of the regular visits by the beefy men and police officers. Meanwhile, Michael and his family, who had been using internet cafes as makeshift hotels, quickly ran out of money, frequently visiting the shared house to plan their takeover. Naturally, they weren't working. In desperation, they turned to the local government office, where they were offered the only available option, a small, poorly located public housing unit in the countryside. However, the housing unit is too small for a family to live in comfortably, and the transportation options are quite poor. They shouldn't be willing to accept such poorly conditioned property given their selfish nature, but they have nowhere else to live and no money. Moreover, they risked losing even that option if another applicant came forward. Stuck with no way forward or back, they eventually decided to move into the public housing. While the rent was negligible, other expenses weren't, and Michael's family, who had always relied on my finances and food, never improved their situation. With the school far away, Mary had to catch an early bus to get to class on time. But she couldn't cope with the hardship and became a problematic child, often skipping school or running away from home. On the other hand, in the shared house, the remaining 2 friends moved in, and our long-awaited life together began. Perhaps because of the ordeal with my son's family, our life together was surprisingly smooth and comfortable. Living with these strong allies, who had helped me through life's crises, became my greatest support. With a communal space available, we could invite friends who didn't live with us for tea parties, weekend gatherings, and plan trips, creating a stream of enjoyable activities. The absence of stress from my son and his family even allowed me to start writing novels again, something I hadn't done in years. This year, I turned 65. While I wouldn't call my past life unhappy, it was dominated by my husband and son. But now, I can spend my money and time on my life with my housemates. So, I converted all my inheritance into cash. And I plan to live freely and comfortably, using everything except for my retirement savings as I please.